Have a seat, everyone, councillors and members of the public. Well, I have got to remind everybody in the gallery, if you will please respect the proceedings of this meeting. Any interruptions or disturbances, obviously, we do not want and we will have to address. I won't hesitate to order removal from the chamber if necessary, but I really sincerely do not want to have to do that. So thank you. Before we proceed with the items on the agenda, I need to remind you of the usual housekeeping messages. There are no fire alarms planned for practice on the agenda. So if one goes off, please, when you hear it, leave the chamber by the nearest door, then follow the illuminated fire exit signs and assemble in the car park at the rear of the building. And of course, would you please all make sure that your phones and tablets are on silent. So a gentle reminder about appropriate behaviour in the council chamber. Obviously, we expect everyone to respect the councillors and officers when business is being carried out. So I would ask the members of the public not to interrupt proceedings. I'll have to intervene accordingly if that's the case. You have the right to film this meeting if you so wish, but I would like to know before we begin whether anyone in the room plans to do this. And if you do, could you please raise your hand? Take that as a no then. So we've got apologies for absence. So we've got apologies from councillors Rushford, Hewlis, Blair and Wells.
And Councillor Collinson, Mr Mayor.
And Councillor Collinson.
And Smith.
And
Smith.
You could be running late. Well, we won't say they're absent until they go to arrive. Next item on the agenda is confirmation of minutes. Please note that the minutes... Go on, Michael.
Carry on.
Please note that the minutes have been republished as a supplement to the original agenda pack for this meeting. This version includes the attachment of written responses and a minor factual amendment to the apologies list. So can I please have a proposal? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As members will know, I don't much like amending the minutes. The officers write them, but I think this one is an important amendment. In paragraph 10.66, it states that Councillor Ellison made comments to the proposed budget and he had limited time to do so. I think it's very important that it be recorded that Councillor Ellison said that the Reform Group were opposed to the budget, but crucially as well, they were opposed to the capital programme and that they did not propose an alternative. Because, Madam Mr Mayor, sorry, that's very important for the public to know that they were against any spending on capital from this council and they didn't want us to spend a penny.
Do we have a seconder for the proposal?
I'll second, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Does anyone want to comment on the factual accuracy of the minutes or propose an amendment? So, in that case, would those members present at the 5th of March meeting who are in favour of confirming the minutes as correct, please clearly indicate by raising your hand.
Do we not vote on the amendment first?
Wasn't aware there was an amendment.
Just proposed.
Right, apparently the amendment is valid. So we'll need a seconder for the amendment.
I'll second.
Roger, yeah.
Are there any more amendments? No. So those in favour of the amendment, could you please clearly indicate by raising your hand? Thank you, you can put them back down now. Do we have any against?
Solid lines.
And any abstentions? Right, the amendment to the minutes are approved. We'll now move to the vote on the amended minutes. Would those members present at the 5th of March meeting who are in favour of confirming the minutes as a correct record with the inclusion of the amendments, please clearly indicate by raising your hands. Any against? And any abstentions? Thank you. So the minutes of the meeting of the 5th of March are confirmed. And the next item on the agenda is item 3, declarations of interest. So do any members or officers have any interest to declare on any items included on the agenda? Take that as a no then. The next item is item 4, announcements. It's a great pleasure to congratulate the staff involved in our Future Coast for winning the Partner Excellence Award of the Network Innovation Awards for the 2nd year running. And I would like to present the award to Councillor Berry as relevant portfolio holder and ask him to say a few words about this achievement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It will be in order for me to say a few words on it then.
Say what-
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Mr. Mayor and fellow councillors, our Future Coast programme is led by our Assistant Director. Sorry. Mr. Mayor and fellow councillors, our Future Coast programme is led by our Assistant Director, Carl Green, and covers the northwest coast from the Mersey to Solway Firth. It seeks measures to prevent flooding and coastal erosion, tackle climate change and promote resilience. In many cases, this involves nature-based solutions, such as the creation of salt marshes, sand dunes, wetlands and retention ponds, but also promotes better agricultural methods such as land drainage and growing specialist crops. The appropriate solution for a coastal area is found as a result of team working with regional flood authorities, local authorities and parish councils, and also a wide range of non-government agencies such as local river trusts, the Morecambe Bay Partnership and various wildlife and nature trusts, and most important of all, local communities. This involves a substantial amount of work, and it is this partnership working carried out by the team which is recognised by the award. Mr. Mayor, whilst it's very gracious of you to present this award to you, I think I'm going to pass it on to Carl Green as he's here this evening and pass it on into his safekeeping.
Thank you.
Thank you both. And I'm pleased to say there's another big well done coming up for Antonio Marmo's Policy Officer, Data Intelligence, on being shortlisted for LARIA's Best Use of Data or Research in a Council Award, recognising his work on an interactive dashboard supporting Lancashire's LGR proposals. A fantastic achievement and a great example of innovation within the Council. I think that deserves a round of applause. And also, there's another situation where two wonderful people saved the life of somebody. So I'd like to extend our sincere gratitude to one of our officers, Graham Nuttall, and one of our volunteers, Steve Mather, for their remarkable and swift actions during the recent medical emergency involving a member of the public. That was Jim. Their immediate response, calling the emergency services, administering CPR and using the defibrillator, together with the rapid arrival of the paramedics and the air ambulance, undoubtedly saved his life. We're relieved to know that although he's got a long haul to go, Jim is doing as well as can be expected, and we understand that he's facing that long road with some courage and also support of the NHS, his family and his friends. So this incident reminds us all of the vital importance of first aid skills and the availability of defibrillators in our communities. And I have one final announcement. I'm pleased to congratulate our Democratic Services colleague, Jack Tickle, who earlier this month completed the Manchester to Liverpool 50-mile ultramarathon. Jack secured a silver medal and raised nearly £2,000 for the local veterans charity. We've received no questions from the public or on notice from councillors. So the next item is item 7, which are the executive reports. And a polite reminder that each speaker has 3 minutes only, and there will be 10 minutes of speaking overall for each executive report. So please clearly indicate by raising your hand if you wish to speak. Please also note that I may refuse supplementary questions in order to ensure that as many different members as possible are able to ask a question or make a comment within the 10 minutes allowance. First, the report of the Leader of the Council. Thank you, Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Reports before members. I believe I'm going to face lots of questions, so I will say none.
Are there any questions or comments for the Council? Thank you, Councillor Fair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before we go to my questions, I just think given the volume and severity of the issues raised in the report, it might be that the councillors might need more than 10 minutes. So just in the off chance that we do need more than 10 minutes, would it be possible to, under Procedure Rule 15, to suspend the standing orders for the...
Can I suggest that we vote on that when we get to 10 minutes?
If we go beyond it?
Yeah.
That's fine, yeah. Is that okay? Okay. Okay, so with regard to Jameson Road, in particular paragraph 2.5, residents are rightly frustrated and find the whole situation totally unacceptable. The fact that people feel unable to sit out in their gardens or open their windows speaks volumes. The fact that the landfill has not been shut down shows that there is something clearly wrong with regard to one or both of the Environment Agency's powers or Wyre's lease agreement with Transwaste. Both Wyre and the EA should be able to end this problem today. The EA appear toothless in everything they do, and their efforts on the landfill have been ineffective. The operator has been doing the bare minimum to appease the EA. The upshot for residents is a living nightmare. There's been a lack of action against poorly performing privatised water companies that continue to rip off the public, and there's been a lack of action against this particular environmental scandal. It's time the EA were given the powers to protect residents. At the moment, the organisation is not fit for purpose. If the EA won't or can't shut down the Jameson landfill, then responsibility falls to Wyre Council. The report says a default notice has been served, but still the stink continues. It seems to me that councils across the country should be reassessing the leases in place for these landfill sites. If Wyre's lease is not strong enough to be able to guarantee residents a certain quality of life and be able to stop the unacceptable management of this site, then the inference is the lease is not fit for purpose. Councils should be able to protect residents. At the moment, there appears a complete lack of ability to do that. This needs to change. With residents put in a position where neither the EA nor Wyre have been able to protect residents from the impact of activities at Jameson Road landfill, it begs a couple of questions for you as leader of Wyre Council. Why was Jameson Road landfill ever allowed to reopen? And do you believe Wyre's current release is not fit for purpose? And if so, what are you planning to do about it? Thank you.
Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, in short, I agree with pretty much everything you've said, Councillor Fell. It's completely unacceptable to me that the statutory regime behind the EA's powers means that what's going on hasn't been dealt with by now, and that needs to change. You know who you can speak to about that. I know that Lorraine does not need speaking to about that because she's already all over it, but unfortunately I'm not convinced people in Westminster are paying a lot of attention. I know she's not the only MP with a problem like this in her ward, constituency, and I know that she's meeting with Annalise Dodds and a few others that have similar issues, so I genuinely wish her well in trying to get some change. When it comes to the lease, we could have the best lease in the world, but we are still subject to the legislation, and the legislation is very pro-tenant when it comes to commercial leases. The notice that you mention is a mechanism by which we could ultimately serve a Section 146 notice, which would allow us to repossess the property and take possession of it. And obviously you mentioned the Environment Agency closing it down. The problem is, the worst thing that could happen right now is the Environment Agency take the licence off them. Because while it's happening slowly, any work on the site would stop. Because while they have to speed up and they have to be compelled to speed up, but again we come back to the EA's powers. Until that cell has been capped off, it's going to stink. And so if the EA just said, right, let's take the licence off you, they remain the tenant without any power to do any work on the site. So there's a very difficult position for the EA, and landfill is much more complicated than I ever thought it was. So I agree entirely that this is utterly unacceptable. It's been unacceptable from almost day one, from when they started proved that every time they did something, it then came back. But the government policy seems to be that we need landfill, and as a result of that, the EA described it on the meeting that Lorraine and I have with her, I think it was last week or the week before, as saying that the legislation assumes that every provider is whiter than white, and none of them are. And one of the reasons none of them are, apparently comes to the EA's landfill tax. I don't quite understand the theories, but there needs to be real change in the industry, because we need to go back to having it whiter than white, because otherwise this will keep happening. And my view is that the EA needs stronger powers when a landfill site is within the reasonable vicinity of residential property. Because it's all well and good having this in the middle of nowhere and it's stinking like this. Even then it's not good, but it's where it is now and how it's being run now, then it's not acceptable. Do I think the lease is fit for purpose? It's ultimately a lease of a landfill site. If we leased them a pub or a piece of land and they were using it as a landfill, then we would have powers. But unfortunately, they've been let a landfill site. Do I wish that landfill site had never reopened? Of course I do. Of course I do. But unfortunately, that lease was granted to Suez, or whatever they were called at the time. And when they then applied to reopen it for the transfer, the lease was granted, and we were advised we had no power to stop it if they gave the bond, etc., which is what they did, and we got the guarantor, which is what they did. So we continue to take legal advice. We have received some updated legal advice because, in my opinion, things have changed. As I mentioned previously, we've gone from it being up and down, them doing something and it going away for a bit, and them doing something and then it coming back, and etc., to it just being constant. Yeah. So that changes things in my mind. So we have been taking some legal advice. I was hoping to have the final version of that advice tonight, so I could give you some positive news if there was any, but I haven't got it yet. So I'm awaiting further legal advice. If there's anything that we can do as a council, we will do it, even if I don't think it will ultimately resolve this, because what needs to happen is that licence needs revoking at the appropriate time, which isn't now.
Thank you, Councillor. We've got roughly 3 minutes left, so is there anybody else wants to say anything? Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I don't know, Councillor Vincent, if you want me to speak on the ferry with you. I know it comes under Councillor Marinell, but obviously with it being an issue, I don't know if it's...
You can do both.
Shall I do you?
Yeah. Okay.
You're very lucky. It was a lot longer than what I've got here, but obviously after the outcome yesterday, I have had to rewrite, so thank you. Obviously, we all welcome the news that the ferry service has been secured in the short term, and I sincerely hope that a substantial, sustainable, long-term solution will follow. This outcome is what everyone who values the ferry has been hoping for. While I do still have questions that I intend to raise with relevant officers, I don't want to detract from the positive progress that has been made up to now. However, I believe it is important to reflect on how the situation was communicated to the public. The initial announcement lacked clarity and detail, and some of the wording created unnecessary ambiguity. This, combined with the absence of key information that later appeared in the second update, contributed to significant confusion. And lastly, can I add, the fact that the ward councillors on both sides of the river were not made aware of the issue prior to the first press release did not help the situation at all. My phone, my laptop, everything was pinging. We were as much in the dark as everyone and could offer no explanations, no details. We had no idea what was happening. Obviously, after the second update, things did level off, and then obviously when Wyre services put their post out as well, it just seemed to have eased. But can I just have your assurance that if anything as serious as this does happen again in future, ward councillors, all councillors, are made aware, so at least they can have some preparation perhaps in place for when residents and constituents do get in touch. Thank you.
Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll take that on board, but I think in this case, this moved very quickly, and we were left with a position where there was a school of thought that said that we should wait and see what happened at the meeting on Wednesday before we say anything, and I was against that because I thought people had a right to know, because if anybody was planning on using the ferry on Thursday, they needed to know before Wednesday night time. So the first press release was rushed. Yes, it could have been better. I'm sure the comms would acknowledge that, because obviously we had to clarify it, and that means it wasn't quite where it should be. There's lessons to be learned there, yeah. And press releases like that do really need to go out to councillors when they are issued, so that everybody gets it at least in their inbox. In this instance, there wasn't really time to put everybody on, to put the ward councillors on notice. We had to just get it out as quickly as we could. We couldn't say everything we would have liked to say, because if we had done, we would have prejudiced the discussions on Wednesday. So there was certain information that if we'd said what we thought at the time, we would not be here today and having the positive news that we have. So I take on board what you're saying, but it did move pretty quickly.
Thank you, Councillor. In theory, we're out of time, but I would like to allow Councillor Rimmer and Councillor Higginson to make their points, but would ask you to keep as brief as possible. Thank you.
Just to add on Jameson Road, we're still getting people complaining with Prees, although obviously not as much as the other areas. I wondered if there were any results. I know in the past we've had problems with evidence about diaries, submission, etc. If there was any results from the enhanced monitoring that you did that you can share, if not now in writing. And on diaries, I know that can we not just do an electronic survey, because the PDFs, nobody fills them in, and it's really, you're depending on people to print them off. I've seen LCC have done something recently. I don't know if there's anything wrong with using Google Forms, but if we can do a dashboard, you should be able to have a really simple survey that people can just fill in on the form and collect diary evidence, really, so we get those numbers in. On the ferry, just to say yes, Friday afternoon was really dreadful timing, and people were very concerned all weekend, so that could be improved. And if there's any update on the Moorbarn wind farm, it can be right as well, and the Standard substation. We've had issues with the Morgan Offshore Wind Limited pulling out, and I've had questions of residents about the stage of the application, so thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you want to respond, Councillor Vincent?
You've hit all the big hitters there in one go. And obviously about Jameson Road, yeah, we're alive to that. In terms of, I understood that you could complete the diary sheet without printing them off,
Yes.
but rather than
Well,
have
they have a PDF on like most
Sure.
of our residents are elderly, they just don't do it.
what I would say is that the advice that we have had is that basically, obviously, the diary sheets remain the gold standard of evidence if we've got them, but we don't have them. But there has been other work that's been done now. So again, we await further legal advice on that front. So we are keeping it constantly under review. You know, it's not we're not just sitting back waiting for the diary sheets. We're constantly speaking to Wakeman through the external solicitors and also barristers giving them advice.
Thank you, Councillor Vincent.
So I'm not finished, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, right.
On ferry, I would like to say thank you actually to Councillor Rimmer, because while others were putting Wyre's out on social media trying to claim that everything was Wyre's fault about the ferry, Councillor Rimmer put a very truthful and informative video on her social media that actually gave people the facts rather than try to stir up annoyance towards the council, which I think is what councillors should be doing. So I was grateful to you for that, Councillor Rimmer. With regards to Orsted, the Morecambe project doesn't really affect anything. So in terms of what will happen for bringing it on at Stanner, our understanding is that Orsted are in favour of that because it would save them a lot of money even if they have to contribute financially to the cost of that. And the initial work that we've had back with regards to the Green Book work that we've done is that the savings that were being touted by people who were just interested in that seem to be reasonably accurate. It's sort of getting on towards £1 billion across the various projects. Is it too far gone for Morecambe and Morgan? Will either of them happen if both of them don't happen? Is the pipeline coming on at Stanner for all three in jeopardy following what happened off the coast of Scotland recently? Who knows? But we will continue to try. But my priority remains getting Orsted moved, and if Morecambe and or Morgan, whichever happens, can go as well, then that's great for the people who filed, and that's great for us as well. And in terms of the ferry, yeah, I think we've already dealt with that.
Thank you, Councillor Vincent, and I'm sure Councillor Higginson will be nice and brief and to the point.
Save the best for the last, thanks for being flexible about this, because Council feels quite right. There are some very important issues, and guess what? It's about land contamination. Unfortunately, my two colleagues aren't able to ask questions on this, so I do have multiple questions. I'll ask them as quickly as I can. I'd also comment with regards to this wind farm. This appraisal is very, very welcome, but at this stage, of course, it's only appraisal. And I think people in Poulton, particularly, and the wider areas within this borough will welcome this, especially when we've had the multiple housing developments, the incinerator issues, and of course the contamination. So, Councillor Vincent, I do have multiple questions. I apologise, but it's important. So I'll just read them out quickly, and if you can try and respond to each one. On page 14, 3.3, to quote the report, there is a significant possibility that it could cause significant harm to health. What exactly is meant by that? On 3.4, with regards to the allotment holders, you can see you scribbling all this down. Will the allotment holders at both Occupation Road and also at Sandringham Avenue be compensated financially in any way as a result of the closure of the said sites? Also on page 14, 3.5, to quote, we will wait with the Environment Agency to identify those responsible and to secure remediation of the site. Can we be absolutely clear what exactly we mean by this and what might the implications be? And are there any updates with regards points 3.6 and 3.7? That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Higginson. Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, at 3.3, where it mentions the significant harm to health, obviously that's just the wording in the legislation. So, effectively, the EA have advised us that because of the levels, it meets that threshold. In terms of the health risk that it poses, that's really unclear because the government have not done the same levels of investigation into this as many other countries have. So obviously the EU had a safe level since 2023, etc. We haven't got that data for the UK. We are working off, I believe, the European standards, but they're not set in the UK yet. So effectively, this investigation is quite a way ahead of the investigation into the health consequences and setting those levels, etc. The Toxicity Commission are looking at setting safe levels, doing a bit of work around that, but it's 18 months away, Councillor Vincent. So
At some point we will get there.
at some point, not anytime soon. So really, what it means for now is, like we said, don't eat it, but beyond that, we don't know. At 3.4, will they be compensated? It's very unlikely, but we are trying to see if we can find alternative places for allotments. I know there's been talk about whether we can put raised beds in, but the problem with putting raised beds in is that obviously you then have to rip them out when you come to do the clean-up, so it's spending a lot of money on the very short term. So if we can find alternative sites for allotments, we will, but we aren't that hopeful. In terms of 3.5, I need to be careful what I say on this because obviously the on-site investigation is significantly behind the wider community investigation. We will. The EA are in the process of applying more pressure on the suspected contaminators, to speed up their investigation and get some data out there, and hopefully that will happen much quicker than it's happening right now. What happens, there would normally be, in general terms, there would normally be an informal approach to invite that person or company or whoever it was to informally agree to do the clean-up themselves, which would be cheaper for them. But if they declined that offer, for example, if they wanted to deny it was their fault, then there would have to be action taken against them to try and prove it and then compel them to do that. So that's the rough process. But again,
at this stage, we need some catch-up on it, don't we?
with significant catch-up, in terms of 3.6 and 3.7, is there an update? They are giving you an update on 3.7. On 3.6, no. We're expecting something from the EA to tell us more about the next phase in the next few weeks. We'll try and get something out to council as soon as we hear anything, but it tends to come in dribs and drabs and then hit you all at once. So we're expecting that to be in the next 2 to 4 weeks.
So we're still a bit in the dark, in spite of all this.
We're still waiting because the EA wanted to come to the drop-ins, listen to people, hear what they had to say, and then go away and work it out, and they're still working it out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hinton and Councillor Vincent, and that concludes the consideration. Oh, we've got anywhere.
Sorry, can I just ask with regard to that significant harm to health, where is the health impact report that I believe the county are dealing with, the public health officer? I'm trying to think of his name now, but anyway. The Director of Public Health anyway. I'm just wondering where this report is, because I think it's only fair that we know what the impact is on residents and has been on the workers of Hill House, past and present, and also the relatives of those past workers. And I think it's about time residents got the answers to that health impact so that we can work out what needs to be done and how quickly that needs to be done. Because at the moment it's just we just don't know where the end point is.
So, Councillor Feld, the work that LCC's Public Health Jack Sackby is doing is effectively to look specifically at whether in that area very generally there are increased cancer rates, etc. So it will be very high level. I believe, I'm told the report's in draft form at the moment, so hopefully it won't be too far away, but it's not yet complete. But it won't look in detail at the impact on workers, the impact on residents. There won't be any sort of health testing on people like the people who kept the eggs, for example. That's not part of what they're doing. It's just very high level and based on data.
Thank you, Councillor Vincent. I think I can jump in now and say That concludes the consideration of the leader's report. We'll now move on to the report of the resources portfolio holder. Thank you, Councillor McKay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My report's before members. Happy to take any questions.
Do we have any questions? No, that was quick. That concludes the consideration of the resources portfolio holder's report. We'll now move on to the report of the street scene, parks and open spaces portfolio holder. So, Councillor Bridge, would you please introduce your report?
So my report is before you. Happy to take any questions.
Do we have any questions? Yes, we do. Councillor Duffy was first.
I'm quick. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Bridge, at 3.3 of your report, it states that just one fixed penalty notice for fly tipping has been issued during the first quarter of the year in Fairhouse Ward. I have it on good authority, though, that the actual number is 3, and that includes the fixed penalty notice issued as a result of a local super sleuthing councillor. But obviously the amount of fly tipping that I report in the ward, I would have hoped it to be more, and whether the proposed increase in fines from 400 to 1,000, which I fully support, will have an impact, only time will tell. I appreciate you can't put on Wyre's website the actual names of people fined, but the streets are sometimes advertised on your social media. So could the street names of where the fly tipping occurred recently in Fairhouse, for which fines were issued, be put out there as a deterrent to remind people that yes, there are consequences for antisocial behaviour such as fly tipping? And lastly, I've spoken many times in here about the serious issues in Fairhouse Ward and fly tipping, the impact it has on the community and also the cost to the council. And at January's meeting, I did say I'd share several suggestions with you that I felt could assist in tackling some of the issues, which Councillor Vincent responded to. Obviously, you've kindly explained and apologised yourself for not responding. I understand, told you what's gone on, and I'm pleased because I didn't really want to have to compage the Wards Reform councillor and his total lack of response to my emails when I ask him any questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Would you care to respond?
Well, thank you for being so understanding about why I couldn't reply. With regard to 3, not 1 FPN, I don't know. It's these numbers are produced tonight. Our teams have been working to roll out the food caddies, and part of the enforcement teams have been helping with that, because it's important we've got it up and running on the Monday. So we've not done as many patrols as we would have liked, but we are going back to doing more patrols. With regard to the street names being published, I think that's a very good idea. Yes, I will implement that tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor. We've got 4 more, and next off the rank is Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2.1 Parks and Open Spaces, Councillor Bridge. I've read the draft report for Jubilee Gardens this week. All it seems to say in there is finishing of the works in summer. Now, is that June, July, August, September? Also, obviously to clear that site, it's not going to take a week, it's going to take a long time. So is it safe to say to residents it's not going to be this year? Thank you.
Right, so we are in the hands of the contractors. They are hoping to have completed the works on the beach in about a week's time, and they are immediately going in to reinstate Jubilee Park. Now, you might not see a lot of things going on because they're going to start off with all the bits that the areas boarded over. When they're saying in the summer, their target is to be finished by mid-August. But we're in the hands of the contractor. But it's ongoing, we are doing it. We are now looking at, once we've had everything put back and we've had a general scoping about Jubilee Gardens, there's then going to be the public consultation, and that's the next phase. We want to get this right because this is our one shot before we become enmeshed with all the other councils. But it's going to be done, but it's going to be done properly. And Jubilee Gardens needs to be a jewel in the crown of Cleveland's. What we want is people to go shopping in Cleveland's and go to Jubilee Gardens, or just take their families to Jubilee Gardens. And that's a serious
So do I
area.
live there.
Right, okay. So yeah, we're on.
Thank you, Councillor Bridge. Councillor Cartridge.
My microphone's not working.
Okay,
thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to draw your attention to 2.3. I was thrilled to see that once again Churchtown have made the national awards for the Bloomers, and of course Catterall. But also I'd like to touch on 2.4 and 2.5. It's excellent to hear that this council is really committed to tackling climate change and making Wyre a much greener place. The plethora of initiatives here is absolutely fantastic. You know, it's ranging from micro forests down in Great Eccleston right the way up to Fleetwood, and it's something this council should be commended for.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just at the risk of being boring, it's down to our fantastic officers, because they're not just said, right, we're going to plant trees, that's it. X number of trees. They've come up with some fantastic initiatives that are really working well. And when I get a report on it, I'll go and have a look at that. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sir Robert Atkins.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much indeed. 2 points, if I may, to Councillor Bridges on paragraph 3. Firstly, I think it's right and proper that we should pay our thanks to the officers, but also, if I may say so, to the borough as a whole, for being one of the leaders on food waste collection. When you consider that Preston, Blackpool, Fylde, Ribble Valley, to name but 4 of our neighbours, hadn't even started, and the fact that we collected on Monday at our house, and I'm sure others as well, is a great tribute to the leadership that this borough is giving in the northwest. So please congratulate the officers concerned, right the way down to the dustmen, because they're doing a splendid job and we ought to take credit for it. Second quick point on fly tipping. You will recall that there was a task group under the chairmanship of Councillor Livesey, and I know that the Cabinet met yesterday and decided on the fine increase from 400 to 1,000. Can I please again encourage good publicity and make sure that we implement this PDQ so that the very points that Councillor Duffy made, and I think we would all concur with, are dealt with immediately. This is a national problem. We only have a local role, but that local role can give the lead again to many other local authorities.
Thank you, Councillor. Obviously, I will pass on the compliments that you've paid. I was staggered. I do mean staggered about how our officers picked up the ball and ran with it immediately.
Yeah.
Because everybody was in really competition to get these new bins, to get the wagons, where we're going to put the wagons, how do we get the best value for money, do we buy them early, do we buy them at the last minute and maybe not get them, and they were across it like, it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. And Cathy in particular was really instrumental in that. So thank you for that. It was really hard work for them. I was happy to just turn up and say, we think this is the best, that, does that fit in with your agenda? And I'm saying, yes, thank you very much. Keep going. With regard to the fly tipping, yeah, yesterday we, as a Cabinet, voted to up the fly tipping maximum to £1,000. We will be going heavily on publicity for that, because what we want is it to be a disincentive. We don't want it to be revenue raising. We want people to not tip in the areas. So we will be doing that. And just with regard to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, I have to say thank you to Councillor Livesey, because I think that was the most constructive O&S I've experienced, not just from this but from other things as well, you know, from other departments. And I think it was your first chairmanship, wasn't it, Councillor?
It was. Yeah.
God, you kept hold of it. We all behaved ourselves and he kept it going in the right direction, so thank you for that. That was a big help, and you came with some really good ideas as a committee, and we're delighted to implement them.
Thank you, Councillor Bridge. Councillor Molyneux.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually was going to bend your ear a little bit first, but I changed it after Monday seeing online. It was brought to my attention on Saturday, early evening, that there was distress with ducklings in the model boat Poulton-le-Fylde. And so I went down and had a look. Somebody was still there who'd seen it happen, and yes, there were 2 ducklings had died, and there was a lot of rubbish in the corner by the little like a little beach area, a lot of sand, and the water levels down. But then I saw that you've got the water levels coming up again, you've got it pumping in, so thank you very much for that. I also took photographs of the rubbish that was around the lake, particularly the other big lake as well, which was quite dangerous. It was nets with lots of the rope. There were the crabbing lines with the attachment of the hooks left around, which is pretty dangerous for all the wildlife around there, and maybe a child anyway. I picked them all up and put them in the bin.
Thank you.
There was dog poo in little bags around, again that went in the bin. I know it had been school holidays, I appreciated that, but I didn't see any signs of sort of please take your fishing gear home after you've used it, or put it in the bins. I don't know whether that is something that could be put into operation. It probably won't stop it always, but at least it's there.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea. I mean, thank you for clearing it up. I will mention to...
I really wish I could have gone all the way around, but unfortunately my health's not good enough. That was just in a little area that I could get to.
If we all did what we could do, then the world would be a lot better place, wouldn't it? I'll look at the signage, no problem at all. I'll also ask the team to just keep their eye on that area for, we sometimes get grot spots, and when they're cleaned up a couple of times, then it stops. I'll also get them to have a look at that. But say thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, Councillor Bridge. Did I see Councillor Birch?
Yes. Thank you. Attorney, just to draw your attention, I don't need it, Councillor Bridge, just to draw your attention, please, to 3.2. We have 2 items there on the enforcement. Brett Ward, 2 patrols in Poulton Cemetery, lovely. Underneath that, Brett Ward, 2 patrols around Longfield Place. That actually is in Tythbarn Ward. So
Right.
if you could just get the report amended,
I shall
please.
have it amended.
Thank you. That was all.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Anything to add, Councillor?
No, I shall get it amended, thank you.
Thank you. So I think that concludes the consideration of the Street Scene, Parks and Open Spaces Portfolio Holders Report. We'll now move on to the report of the Planning Policy Economic Development Portfolio Holder. So, thank you, Councillor Lynn Marinell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Reports for councillors. Quite happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Councillor Duffy, I think you were first.
Sorry. Very quick. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Marinell, I'm sure you're obviously aware of the unauthorised demolition of the listed building on Dock Street over the recent bank holiday weekend. I've been involved with the ongoing issues surrounding this listed building since it was first shored up in October 23, including issues with the closing off of the pavement. And throughout that time there's been uncertainty about its future. Obviously that uncertainty has now been definitely removed. Building control here at Wyre and Highways at Lancashire County Council are currently working to ensure the pavement is cleared of all the rubble, the scaffolding, it was just dumped on the pavement. But can I just add that County's involvement has been without any assistance from our elusive home county councillor for the ward. This has been Wyre, me and the chap at County. The action taken by the owner over the bank holiday weekend was, I believe, in breach of Section 80 of the Building Act 1984. Given the seriousness of this, I am asking you to ensure that the matter is pursued through the appropriate legal channels. Because to me, if no action is taken, that would risk setting a precedent for future unauthorised demolitions or any breach of the Building Act, and it's deeply unfair to the many builders and developers who do comply with the law.
Would you go to respond, Councillor?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for your question. Yeah, we are aware of it, and the pictures that you sent were quite shocking, really, to say the least. I'll speak to Steve Smith about Section 18 and see what we can do from there, but quite happy to do it. It's sitting on the end. He's probably taking notes already as we speak, but yeah, I'll speak to Steve and get back to you on that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Birch.
Oh, thank you. I've got two questions actually on two completely different matters. The first question, I know Councillor Vincent has updated us with the outcome of the Fleetwood to Nottingham ferry, but I would just like to ask for a little bit more information, please, about the subsidy discussions that between Wyre and LCC, and could you update me, please, of the outcome of those discussions to see what each authority's input has been, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Care to respond?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your question, Councillor Birch. First, I'd say, of course, how pleased I am that the ferry is going to carry on going for the foreseeable future. I think that's really important. The other day, County Councillor Salter, in reply to a resident, after he passed the resident on to me regarding the ferry contract, stated, and I quote, "Despite our support for continuing the ferry, unfortunately, it is Wyre Borough Council who were responsible for the contract tender, who have failed to secure any bid, including from the current operator. I suspect there are not intractable issues, but Wyre have simply not prioritised this." This council, along with myself and officers, have been working extremely hard to make sure that the ferry kept on running. It's simply not true that we've not prioritised this. In fact, it was LCC that hindered the work by continually dragging their heels over committing to their half of the subsidy. Councillor Salter, when he was a Conservative councillor on LCC, ironically, was the representative on the ferry board along with myself. He was fully aware of all the issues regarding the ferry contract, and the LCC councillor now responsible is sitting opposite me. Does she not talk with her councillors on what is an extremely important issue to the Fleetwood residents that she supposedly represents? During the subsidy negotiations with LCC, where I immediately committed Wyre's half to subsidy, Councillor Jones attended, but clearly had absolutely no authority to make a single decision, and quite frankly, it was her officers that did virtually all the talking. LCC repeatedly stalled over committing any money towards the ferry, towards the subsidy. LCC always hiding behind, we need to do the budget first, then committing to deadlines and then missing every single deadline that they committed to. Which is why I was forced out of exasperation, as you'll be aware last year at full council, that I brought it out and opened up to the public, which they then came back within a couple of days with the subsidy. Over the last few days, LCC have been telling anyone that would listen that they were committed to a 3-year subsidy deal. That is not true. When this council proposed that we do a 3-year deal to give more security to the ferry, LCC said they would only commit to a 1-year deal. Councillor Jones knows this. She was on the meeting when the proposal was made by myself and officers. I would sincerely hope that over the next few months, LCC reform will put their money where their mouth is when it comes to the subsidy and not spout guff to people thinking that they won't be called out on it. And bizarrely, after LCC knew there had been an agreement yesterday, they then sent out a letter to the government laying out why it should be kept open. Go figure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor.
Can I ask my second question?
Go on.
Please? Thank you. It's a quick one. I'd just like to pass on my thanks, please, and the thanks of all Tidebarn residents on the opening of the new cricket pavilion and the Cotton Ball, and the Poulton Sports Arena, I think it's called, its full title. I had the honour and the privilege of actually cutting the ribbon on the final opening day, the official one, and I must say the determination and the appreciation of all the members of the cricket club that I spoke to was absolutely wonderful. So thank you very much. Now, that bit's finished. I'm just wondering now, please, what is the next stage of the Grand Master Plan, I believe it was going to be the perimeter pass. I'm just wondering, has that gone out to tender yet, or where are we up to, please? Just so that I can pass on the information to residents that I meet while dog walking on Cotton Hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Again, thank you for the question. Me too. It's been a really great project. It looks absolutely fantastic. I'm sure there's a lot of cricket clubs will be pleased to have a cricket pavilion like that. I'm
Next up for what it was like.
I'm looking at one at Poulton-le-Fylde Cricket Club is a really nice place as well, but yeah, the new one at Cotton Hall is fantastic. I'll pass on your thanks as well, and it is really good. For the next phase of the work, the next phase really is going to be the drainage. So they're currently looking at that. It's Roger's area, Roger Bottlebank's area, and because of his work is quite a reactive part of it, sometimes it takes a bit of a while to get around to doing other stuff. But they are committed to doing that, and I would imagine that will be done within 3 to 4 weeks. And the next part will be the trail, the path that goes all the way around it. So that's fine. So yes, so thanks for that.
Lovely, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lady Dulcie Atkins.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to say, 2.2, the teenage market was absolutely fantastic in Garstang. It really, it was wonderful to see all these youngsters who'd made various things, and they were terrific things they made, but also the support of their parents and carers, etc., was quite something, and the grannies as well. And just to say also with 7.1, it has made a remarkable achievement on the Garstang covered market, because it's been so cold there with the doors open in the winter that having these shutting windows, and thank you to Fleetwood actually when we went to the market, because we had a walk around there to see their doors as well. And it's made the place a completely different atmosphere in there, and I know that the guys who do the deli are hoping to get the other stalls so they can have a sort of a little cafe there with people going in there. So, you know, what with that and also the solar panels and various other things that were done, brilliant. Thank you very, very much indeed.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor Lady Dulcie Atkins. Yeah, I agree. The youth markets are brilliant. They've been brilliant all the way around Wyre. I think the people that did the market absolutely love doing it. So some good experience of them too, which is great. I know that also the one they did in the Teen Low went down really, really well. With regards to the Garstang market, I had the privilege of cutting the ribbon there, so that was really good. Very nice coffee, I have to say, and cake, which is even better. So that was a big bonus, without any doubt. So yes, some good stuff going on there. And just on the, I know it's not the market, but just a quick one for Ruth. The new stalls that are in the market, in Poulton market, have gone down really, really well. So I'm really pleased about that as well. So thank you for the question. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Rimmer.
Yeah, just a short follow-up on the ferry. Obviously it's very good that there's an interim solution, but it looks like we're still on slightly rocky ground. We had our annual town meeting in Preesall on Monday night, and the Preesall Town Council meeting afterwards, and just to ask that if there are future discussions and there are difficulties, that it's a little bit more inclusive, and you've talked to a wider group of stakeholders, because I think Preesall Town Council in particular mentioned that they're very keen to support any transport links in rural communities, but particularly the ferry with the links to the health centre and the job centre. Thanks.
Do you care to respond?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Thanks for the question. Yeah, we will do. If I can keep you up to date as much as possible. I think going forwards now, we've got to work as hard as we possibly can to make sure that there's a long-term future for the ferry. We certainly do not want to see it finish. I don't think anybody wants to see it finish, so I think it's important we do that, but yeah, I'll keep you as informed as possible. Thank you. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Marinell. So that concludes the consideration of the Planning, Policy and Economic Development Portfolio Holders Report. We'll now move on to the report of the Neighbourhood Services and Community Safety Portfolio Holder. Councillor Berry, would you like to introduce your report?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. And before introducing my report, I'd just like to mention to councillors that they're welcome to attend a flood response workshop focusing on Wyre and Blackpool areas. It's to be held at the Marine Hall on Tuesday the 28th of April in the afternoon between 1:30 and 4 p.m. And it's going to look at possible local at-risk areas, response arrangements and community engagement. So it should be quite an interesting meeting and hopefully a reassuring meeting for those councillors who live in those areas that may be affected if by chance, and I hope we don't have any flooding incidents, but if it did happen, at least we want to be prepared for those events. Other than that, Mr. Mayor, I can introduce my report and I'll do my best to answer any questions arising from it.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any questions arising from the report? Yes, we've got Councillor Sir Robert Atkins.
He's still got his on.
Can you turn your... thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under item 2.4, there is reference to discussions with the Police and Crime Commissioner about safety of women and girls in taxis. You will know, and Council will know, that I've raised on previous occasions the problems over the authority that we operate as a licensing authority over our own taxi operators, taxi owners, but not the others. And the argument, remember, was about the fact that Wolverhampton controlled about 60% of the whole country. I wondered if you could give us any more information on the problem and whether others are taking it as seriously as we are.
Yeah, okay. Many thanks for your question. Obviously, the Police and Crime Commission has taken this on board because of this survey which is undertaken, and quite frankly, the figures are not very endearing, are they? The bad. I find it very difficult to believe that some of these figures are really, are reflective of what women do feel, but it's something we must attend to. I think what the Commissioner is seeking to do in the first instance, he's made enquiries of local authorities and inquired, generally about taxi licensing. And I think what he's looking for is some sort of consistent standards, first of all across Lancashire, as regards approving and monitoring taxi operators, taxi drivers, vehicle checks, and training especially on safeguarding and monitoring the taxis, safeguarding, what safeguarding practices they do have in place. And he wants to look also at how we can monitor taxis that are licensed out of the area. Now, I think what his approach is that he realises that the question of out-of-area licensing is possibly something that's got to be sorted ultimately by the government. But in the meantime, I think he's wanting to seek a gold standard effectively for taxis in Lancashire. And then as a result of that gold standard to publicise it, and it may very well force taxi operators who are registered elsewhere to think, if I'm going to operate in Lancashire, I've got to be part of the scheme. So it's not a straightforward answer to the question that you've quite rightly raised in the past, but it's on the way, and hopefully the combination of the government's looking at the issue and what we can achieve in Lancashire will make sure that women and girls do feel safe when they do travel in taxis. I can assure people that obviously I did mention this survey to our licensing officer because, as I say, it's distressing figures, and he does feel that he's not had any incidents that has been reported to him. Now, I'm not saying that incidents haven't happened, but it's not an issue that's been brought forward, and obviously if there are issues, please bring them forward to our licensing officer, and it can be dealt with by the committee, because we do want to make sure that women and girls feel safe in travelling. And I've got to say that the taxi operators do play a great part especially in the nighttime economy, taking people home from their evening out, and also they do a lot looking after older people who have difficulty in shopping. So we do appreciate their services, but we want them to operate safely.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cartridge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's regarding 2.2 of your report. Again, I was really pleased to see this. Having run a pub myself many years ago, I know how important setting up pub watches for the nighttime economy. It's great that it tackles antisocial behaviour, it gets puts working together, that sort of thing. And I think it's great that this council's been proactive working with the nighttime economy to complement that. You know, you've got places such as Cleveland which are changing, and the nature of the economy is changing, and I think this council is recognising that. The second thing which I'd like to point to is regarding 3.1, which is about housing. I'd like to say thank you again to the care and repair team. I've had a couple of residents within my ward who use the service and said it's absolutely fantastic. Please can that be passed on?
Yeah.
To respond?
Yeah, thank you for those questions. Basically, I think it's important we do realise that a new nighttime economy is springing up in Cleveland, and it's something obviously that the police and the licensing team have carefully are watching and considering. And one of the things that we do feel that if it is to operate successfully is that we do have a pub watch scheme in Cleveland. The pub watch is the licensee's own scheme, and it's in their interest to have such a thing operating in their area. They can work together, they can pass information between each other as to likely characters who are causing problems, and ultimately they can exclude these characters from licensed premises. So yes, we are really encouraging this, so to keep standards at a high level in Cleveland. And at the same time, we're working hard in Poulton as well, where that scheme unfortunately has fallen by the wayside for various reasons. We're hoping to bring it back because there has been a change of licensees in certain of the premises. I will add, as part of it, we will be attending, of course, I think, between ONS on Monday evening, where we can report further to members of the OS team exactly what we're doing on licensed premises and other matters that affect the Community Safety Partnership. As regards housing, yeah, I think it's fair. It's fantastic what the care and repair team are achieving, and in particular, the amount of benefits that they're getting, that they're getting for people who are unaware that they can claim these benefits from the state. The amount of money that they've achieved in getting awards for people is fantastic, and it's not just one-off awards, it's what they get every year, isn't it? So yes, it's helping people to be able to live in their own homes and to have a reasonable standard of living, and especially keeping themselves safe and keeping their homes warm. Thank you. I will pass on to them. I think we all appreciate what the work those people do in that team, and Mark Broadhurst, of course, is their leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. So that concludes the consideration of the Neighbourhood Services and Community Safety Portfolio Holders Report. So we'll now move on to the report of the Leisure, Health and Community Engagement Portfolio Holder. Councillor Bowen, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My report's before you. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions? Councillor Molyneux's hand went up first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the, what you're talking about on the new Parkwood Leisure taking over the YMCA building, I'm a service user on the wellness gym. There's a lot of talk at the moment and unrest regarding they're bringing in a traffic light system, a sort of, what's it called, 3 strikeouts, and you've got a week that you can't book in. If you don't cancel within the hour before your actual time of using the gym.
Would you wish to respond, Councillor?
Yeah, but I don't know anything about that, but I'll look into it and let you have a written answer.
Thank you. It's causing quite a lot of worrying, quite a lot of, well, a lot of us are sort of, we go there because we're disabled, this, that and the other, we might miss an appointment at the last minute and have to rush to the hospital. And this week of not being able to book in again, so a week without doing the exercises when they're going regularly, is really worrying.
Yeah, I'll look into that, but it's totally unacceptable if that's what's happening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We now have Councillor Rimmer.
Yeah, just to say how good it is about the diversity of events happening at Marine Hall. The Cine Wyre Festival was amazing. I wanted to go to lots of things, but I only managed to go to one workshop on how to record a music video. And there was a band there who I didn't know before. I'm not that up with it, but they have like 85,000 followers on Instagram, and they're amazingly famous. And they came all the way to Fleetwood to do this workshop, and they're linked with the South Coast and Lytham, although they're an international band. They've got members from multiple countries, and it was just amazing. So I hope it continues and that we get more cinema festivals and that we continue to get lots of different things at the Marine Hall. So thank you whoever organised it.
Yeah, the manager, Dean Stewart, is really good. I mean, he's so enthusiastic and so passionate about the Marine Hall. So he's booking as many things that he thinks will be suitable for the area as he can. So yeah, I think you'll see a lot more things like that coming through.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ellison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for your report, Councillor Lloyd. What's the latest position with regards to finding a new tenant at Poulton-le-Fylde Theatre, please?
Right, we've sent out for expressions of interest. We got 4 back, and there's 1 that's outstanding. But I'm not free to say who it is. So things are moving pretty fast.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Higginson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to pay tribute to Poulton-le-Fylde's SC on Granville Road. Councillor Swatton and I were recently invited to look around the ground and the facilities, and I know that Councillor Kerr, you've been a few times, haven't you, to Granville Road. I have to say we were quite overwhelmed as to the progress that they're making there, and everyone involved at Poulton-le-Fylde was so proud of this little club. And we watched the match as well. It's a decent game of football, and it's not just a football club, it's a good community asset. I was most impressed. I think we were, weren't we? And it's been used obviously for the dropping about the contamination. No more questions on that, of course, but it's a facility that people are using, that they took with such enthusiasm. Seemingly it's licensed and open to the public every evening, and it's a much welcome asset, because in Poulton we've lost so much over the years. The Bone Poacher closed down some years ago, didn't it? The International Club, and more recently, sadly, the Bernays. So I just wanted to pay tribute to Poulton-le-Fylde. Mr. Mayor, you will receive an invitation probably sometime in August. They said they're going to invite you before the new season, at the beginning of the new season. Don't have any breakfast though, because the hospitality is immense, and I can strongly recommend the steak and mushroom pies. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have any more questions? Councillor Bowen, do you wish to respond?
No, just to say that I have noticed that in a lot of the sports clubs, what we've helped, that they're so passionate about their own sports club, and it's got a lot of camaraderie amongst them. So yeah, I think it's a good community spirit that brings it through. Thank you.
So that concludes the consideration of the Neighbourhood Services and Community Safety Portfolio Holders Report. So we'll now move on to the... Where are we? Sorry. Leisure and Health. Sorry, got your job wrong. And Community Engagement Portfolio Holders Report. So now is the opportunity for members of the Cabinet to make comments or ask questions on the reports of the colleagues. Do any Cabinet members wish to do so? Thank you, Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Mr. I always feel really sorry for Councillor Mackay that she never gets to answer any questions. Councillor Mackay, the Cotton Hall redevelopment, which is multi-millions of pounds, and the significant works at Wyre Estuary Country Park are both significant capital investments by this council that will improve Wyre fantastically for our residents. Does the portfolio holder agree with me that it's very disappointing that the councillors from Reform UK Limited are opposed to these projects?
Thank you, Councillor Vincent. Yeah, this is what Wyre Council's all about. We get I've got grief online for having a large amount of reserves. We're told we don't spend money, but we do. We just don't waste money. We spend money on the right projects at the right time, and we keep the services strong. And these are two prime examples of where we spent the money and it's been a success. It's improving our areas and it's improving the quality of life for our residents, and that's what we're all here to do. The space at Cotton Hall, it's a really great green space in the middle of Poulton, and it was being left to just sort of wasted really, and we've put money there, and it's a fantastic area, and it's going to be brilliant for the residents, and especially with LGR around the corner. We're protecting these assets for future generations. So it is disappointing with reform, but that's what we've come to expect.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other Cabinet members wish to address a question?
Can I ask Michael a question? Is there any way that we can put something in to be able to ask the questions for the county councillors to answer, and while they're here, such as Peter Marinell, the question that he wanted to bring up about the discrepancy in the report?
So I think that we wouldn't want it to become sort of a cross-chamber debate where we're asking county councillors questions that they're not here in that capacity. However, I do think it's important that where there are concerns with certain things from the county councillors, that the council writes to the county council and raises our concerns about any misinformation that's been put out there about anything in this borough.
I just thought it would be a good idea for all the councillors to listen to the reply.
Do we have any more questions from Cabinet members to each other? Yes, thank you. I see you.
Sorry, can I just say on that, I know that obviously we can't do kind of that cross-party, county council to Wyre, but it would be helpful if our Wyre councillors that did sit on Lancashire County Council could maybe fill us in as the local Wyre councillors when there are those issues that are in reports. That would be helpful for residents.
Responding to emails would be great, to be honest with you.
Do you wish to say that, Councillor Vincent?
I'm saying nothing.
There's time for everything. Right, it doesn't look like we've got any more Cabinet members who want to address each other. So that concludes the consideration of executive reports. We'll now move on to agenda item 8, calendar of meetings 2027-2028. So Councillor Vincent, would you please introduce the report and propose the recommendations?
It's before members, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Propose that.
Seconder?
I'll second, Mr. Mayor.
Any comments, questions or amendments? So Councillor Vincent, as the proposer of the recommendation, would you please respond to the debate?
Just move to the vote, Mr. Mayor.
So that concludes the debate. Would members please vote now on the recommendation? Those in favour, please show. Looks like it's unanimous, just in case anyone against. No abstentions either then. The recommendation's approved. So the next item is item 9, Councillor Development Strategy Annual Refresh 2026 to 2028. So Councillor Marinell, would you please introduce the report and propose the recommendations?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report's before you. Just before we do the recommendations, just a thanks to Jack, the lead officer that works on the council development. He is absolutely brilliant, I have to say. He does a huge amount of work. He's incredibly enthusiastic. And as we know, he did a massive amount of work to us, winning the award, which was really good. And also to Councillor Robinson, that's the chair, again does an absolutely brilliant job. And I would just like to say to council, take advantage of the courses that are there. You know, they help you to do a lot of stuff with residents and help yourself as a councillor, especially any new councillors that are around. So I would really encourage you to do that. So as recommendations, I would recommend 3.1 to 3.5. Thank you.
Did we have a seconder?
Second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any comments, questions or amendments? Good. So I take it there's no councillors or cabinet members want to query that. So Councillor Maranel, as the proposer of the recommendations, there's no need to respond to anything really, is there, by the look of it? So that concludes the debate. So would members please vote now on the recommendations. Those in favour, please show. Looks like unanimous. You can put your hands down.
One abstention.
One abstention. Two abstentions. Thank you.
Can we show our hands again? Those four.
All in favour, show your hands again. Need a mirror. Any against? And any abstentions? Looks like the recommendations are approved. So the next item is item 10, periodic report of the Councillor Development Group. So Councillor Robinson, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My report is before members, but I would just like to take this opportunity and thank the Council Development Group members and the Democratic Service team, especially Marianne and Jack Tickle, like has just been said, for their valued support and input over the last municipal year. And I would also like to thank also those people who were involved in the half-a-day interviews and gathering the information so we could achieve the North West Employers Charter. So thank you very much for all that. The report is actually, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have any comments or questions? That's good. So the report is noted. The next item is item 11. Periodic report of the Audit and Standards Committee. So Councillor Iverson, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just wish to acknowledge the efforts of the officers and members of the committee, and special mention for our independent members, Paul Taylor and Nicky Parker, who are an excellent asset to the committee. The report's before you, and happy to take questions.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have any questions or comments on the report? Take that as a no. So the report is noted. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 12, notices of motion. We have received one. The motion's been submitted by Councillors Maranel, Partridge, Bolton, Robinson and Kay, which is set out in full at pages 139 to 140 of your agendas. So Councillor Maranel, would you please propose the motion? You have a maximum of 5 minutes to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Labour Secretary of State for Housing and Communities, Steve Reid, is to introduce planning reforms that are ill thought out, deeply undemocratic and ones that will be devastating to wider communities. No councillor will have the right to call in an application on behalf of residents. No application will come before the committee unless it is over 9 units, and any application of over 150 units that is recommended for refusal will go directly to Steve Reid for him to make a decision, with no need for a developer to appeal. This council opposes any changes to planning rules that take away the rights of democratically elected councillors to represent their residents. We ask that the Planning Policy and Economic Development Portfolio Holder submit a robust response to the consultation, expressing this council's dismay at the proposals and urging the government to rethink. I would say that councillors attending the early pre-meeting, very well delivered by Steve Smith, I have to say, thank you, will already have heard the many changes to planning and committees that are being proposed by Steve Green. I'll cover more in my response to the debate at the end of the debate. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Carter, do you understand you're going to second the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'd like to reserve the right to speak as well.
That's fine. So would any members who wish to speak for or against the motion or to propose an amendment to it, please indicate. You'll have up to 5 minutes each. So we've got one. Okay. You might as well... Oh, sorry.
Mr. Mayor, the reality of this is that over the years, democracy from planning has been stripped away. We were told when we agreed to the Blackpool Road small site that if we agreed to that would, because it wasn't Greenbelt, we were told that would mean that there would be 200 houses, and of course that was all ripped up by the planning inspector anyway, and now we've got an application for another 100 on there. So it seems to me that whether you have a local plan or not, you get all the housing anyway. We're told we have to have a local plan so that you can resist planning applications, and yet we don't resist planning applications because the rules say we have to just give planning permission anyway. Yet we're about to spend millions of pounds on another local plan that residents don't want, to allow for housing that the residents don't want. I can't really see the benefit, to be honest. I'm struggling to see the benefit other than the fact that we're told we've got to have one. We're told that if we don't agree to 6,000 houses they want us to build, they'll build more than that. Well, where? You know, they're going to struggle to find sites beyond that, given what we're told we're going to get from Blackpool as well. The whole thing is just wrong. And the worst part of it, Mr. Mayor, is that they are still going to hide behind this council. We all know that when something goes to planning committee, if it's a pass, it's a pass. You haven't got any choice but to pass it if the rules require it. There isn't going to be a planning committee now unless you're going to apply for a tree preservation order. So, but instead of it going to a national planning inspector to apply the national rules, which is all everybody does, we pay for a local plan, we pay the wages of the officers, and this isn't against the planning officers in any way, this is the system, not them. And then they approve things as Wyre Council. So all of our residents who vote us here and think we have a voice for them still think it's Wyre Council. Well, they work for us, right? So why can't we tell them what to do? Well, because they don't really work for us, they work for the government. And this, for me, is the final straw in moving us to a position where democratic involvement in planning is a total sham. Yeah. And I think that we as councillors have an obligation, if they bring this in, not to just roll over and have our bellies tickled and let them do it, and also make very clear to residents, collectively as councillors, because it affects all of us, because in your ward, whether you're in the administration or not, whether you're Labour, Reform, Independent, it doesn't matter. If you get a lot of houses in your ward and you vote against them, or you're against them, and you have no say in that, and you can't even call it in, and that gets built, they will be against you as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this affects all of us.
Anybody else want to speak? Councillor Fail.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To be clear from the outset, Wyre Labour Group want to see the democratic process for planning bolstered, not undermined. After all, in 2016, Wyre Labour Group fought in vain against the Wyre Conservative Group's ill-thought-out planning changes that led to councillors being heavily restricted in terms of the planning applications that could be called in, and residents also left with a reduced ability to speak at planning meetings. So it's somewhat hypocritical to see Conservative councillors complain about a loss of democracy, especially when at least 2 of the Conservative signatories of this notice of motion previously voted to undermine democracy in the planning process here in Wyre. The Wyre Labour Group remain consistent, and we would encourage any councillor that is concerned about what are currently proposals to take part in the ongoing consultation in the same way Wyre Labour Group members have. The motion itself is rather clunky and in places potentially not true. There is an element of conjecture. And although we too are concerned about the ability of councillors to be able to call in applications and consider them locally, the motion seems premature and contains no way of controlling the portfolio holder's proposed robust response to the consultation. We will be abstaining on this clunky, possibly
Oh, what a surprise.
We will be abstaining on this clunky, possibly inaccurate and premature motion, and instead we advise councillors to respond to the consultation, calling for more democracy in the planning process, not less. Councillors can then consider the revised proposals post-consultation when the matter hopefully won't be based on conjecture but fact. Thank you.
What a cop-out.
Thank you, Councillor Fail.
That's all cop-out.
It's true. Councillor Marrell, do you wish to respond? Oh, sorry, before you do, Councillor Cartridge.
The consultation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to just pick on a couple of points. I don't think I need to go over any more about the pros of this motion because the leader's already done that. However, what I will say is that I have just sat here absolutely flummoxed what's just come out of your mouth, Councillor Fowler. Because since I've been on this council, the amount of times you've stood up and actually mentioned something about development and the right to actually, and can I just speak? And the right to actually scrutinise that is just many times. So I'm really perplexed that you're happy to surrender this and take control of the council.
We're not, you're lying.
We're not surrendering, you've got it wrong, Peter.
Thank you, Councillor. I think I can hear you.
I promise you, we've got it wrong. We just need to do this consultation when that's done.
So, Councillor Marrell, have you got something further you wish to say?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. This proposal from Steve Reid, the Secretary of State, is straight out of his predecessor's handbook, Angela Rayner. Remember her, the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party and Housing Minister, who was forced to resign because she didn't pay £40,000 in tax on the property she bought. It appears that just as Miss Rayner decided on the huge increase in housing numbers forced on Wyre by sticking her finger in a gob and waving it in the air, Steve Reid is also using the same method to change planning rules for councils and elected members of the planning committee. Residents should be fully aware how these proposals will affect them and the people they voted for to represent them. Residents will no longer be able to ask the elected councillor to call in an application that is under 9 units. They will no longer be able to get called in items such as change of use of residential property to children's care home, a neighbour's application that they believe will cause them to be overlooked, a neighbour's application that they believe will be detrimental to their amenity, or many other things that they believe will impact themselves or the community. These decisions will be made by a senior planning officer. Applications over 9 units will be also extremely limited for being brought before the planning committee to be scrutinised and decided on. But if it's a tree preservation, don't worry, you'll be at the front of the queue for that one. Currently, an application that comes before the committee that's refused can then be appealed by the applicant. However, Mr. Reid's new proposals, any application over 150 units cannot be refused, either by officers or the committee. It will go directly to Mr. Reid for him to make a decision, with no need for an applicant or developer to make an appeal. This is not democracy. These proposals from Steve Reid are a direct attack on democracy. Residents and elected members are being sidelined by unnecessary meddling from the Secretary of State. What happens in people's communities when it comes to planning matters should be able to be scrutinised, and councils, committees, applicants and developers be subject to that scrutiny. This is a blatant attack. There's a blatant backdoor attempt by this government to push through changes that they think will speed up more development in order to meet their target of 1.5 million homes over the term of this Parliament, a target that is already way off course and one that we will never hit. Residents and councillors still have a small window to object to these changes in consultation. I would strongly urge them all to do so. I ask all members of this council on behalf of their residents to support this motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. So that concludes the debate. So we'll move to the vote. Will those in favour of the motion please show?
Shame on you.
Yeah, really. When the consultation's done, totally agree with you.
If you're going to play tennis, do it outside, thank you.
Sorry.
Those against, please?
You didn't.
Any abstentions?
What a surprise.
We already said we were going to have to say
The motion is carried.
What a surprise!
Now the best sentence of the evening. Thank you all for attending. I call this meeting to a close.
Yay!